I think when we stop looking at each other, whether it's our employees or our clients, like they are a transaction, and really start looking at them as a person, we really start to understand and want to do what's best for that person. So a lot of the times we'll start conversations with clients or team members with, how can I help you? What is something that we can work together on to help us mutually achieve our goals? And so that really is a starting point of a very productive conversation, relationship, and really a win-win-win for us, our customers, our clients.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
We all want to increase the customer value, right? We want to make sure our customers are getting more value than they're paying or exchanging for money or payment. Increasing customer value is something that we need to think through as leaders, but we also need to create an organization that allows us to increase this customer value. Our guest today has been on the Inc. list. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's got a new company that's coming out. We're with Karlo Tanjuakio. He's the CEO of Go Lean Six Sigma, and he's also the CEO of Kure, which we talk about that inside the episode, what that actually is. But what we talk about is about increasing customer value, about feedback loops that allow you to put up systems to get feedback from the customers, whether it be anecdotal feedback, one-on-one exchanges, or even surveys. Those kind of mechanisms allow us to increase customer value. But then there's a lot more to it than that. We look through some of the different aspects of increasing customer value in today's episode on the show. If you want to continue evolving as a leader, I want to make sure that you are challenged and supported in the right way. Everything about leadership allows you to really see who you are. And you want to make sure the most authentic you is showing up at the best moments. That is the key to being a great leader. I work with a lot of founders from the Inc. 5000, although you don't have to be on the Inc. 5000 to be a client, but you do have to be hungry for growth. And if you want to know what your next step is, there's a better way, then make sure you check out genehammett.com and go to Start Your Journey. You can get time with me. I'm going to help you create a game plan to really help you get clear about what's next for your leadership, your strategy forward, and I really look forward to serving you. So just go to genehammett.com. Look forward to seeing you. Now here's the interview with Karlo. Karlo, how are you?
Hey, Gene, I'm excellent. How's it going?
Excited to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you are a serial entrepreneur. You've had multiple companies. You've got a new one that's been started recently. Tell us about Kure.
Would love to. So Kure is an online platform that allows people to optimize their processes on their own. If you think about what Uber has done for private driving or private transportation, or what Airbnb has done with hospitality, it's kind of taking that approach where you're empowering people to do it on their own and be independent versus kind of being stuck inside of a particular situation.
I don't know if you know my background, but I am an industrial and systems engineer from Georgia Tech. So it's very much related to some of the background work that you've been in. Are you an engineer?
I'm not an engineer. No,
so I'm the
works.
only one who worked in a plant to optimize their systems when I was in college. Is that fair to say? But all that to share with you, we're going to talk about increasing customer value today. You've had another business, Go Lean Six Sigma. Is that right?
That's correct.
They were
GoLeanSixSigma.com.
They were on the Inc. list, and you've got this overarching view of increasing customer value. Let's dive into what that means, the way you approach business. So tell us overall, what does that increasing customer value mean to you?
Would love to. So when I founded GoLeanSixSigma.com 10 years ago, I really wanted to empower people to improve processes and be more productive with Lean Six Sigma. It's kind of this mysterious statistician methodology that really wasn't that accessible to people. And what I wanted to do is make it as accessible to people as possible. So what I did was I created online training that really spoke to the basic principles of Lean Six Sigma. So my purpose in creating value for people was to make sure that they could apply what they learned. And so applying what they learn. And so our training and certification really made it easy for people to understand all of the different tools that Lean Six Sigma provided, and gave them an easy way to complete projects.
Karlo, when you think about the customer and really, do you listen to the customer, or do you have another approach of understanding what they really want and what they need?
Yeah, one of the elements inside of Lean Six Sigma is called voice of the customer. And it's essentially a feedback loop that where you're constantly asking what the customer, what their value is, or what they're trying to accomplish out of using your product or service. So one of the things that we do on a consistent basis is we ask them for feedback in the form of an online survey, maybe it's an interview, or some sort of automated feedback mechanism where we take what their challenges are and what they found the most valuable in that product, and implement that into updated versions of our products, so that they feel like they're a part of the process, and they understand that we're trying to get them the most bang for their buck, if you will, out of our service versus anyone else's.
Now, I think it is Steve Jobs very famous for never listen to the customer. Now, I think that we misinterpret that, in my opinion. I wasn't there when he was around this. They're listening to the customer, but they're not listening in the same way that most of us are. Have you heard that Steve Jobs quote?
I have, and I find it really interesting, because you want to kind of be proactive about understanding what that customer doesn't think that they need. I think Henry Ford said something like, if you ask a customer how a better form of transportation, they would want more horses or something like that. And I probably butchered that, but that's how the story came of the automobile. They didn't know that an automobile could exist. So you kind of have to be creative and innovative, and understand what that customer's intent is, and then provide something that maybe they didn't think that they needed.
Well, I want to put our focus here on Kure, because you're creating a new company. By the time this comes out, the company will be launched out, but it's based on some of the work you've done over the last 10 years with your previous successes. When you think about increasing customer value, what is beyond listening to the customer?
Something that's beyond listening to the customer is thinking about the trends in the world. Technology changes the way that we behave every day. And the only thing constant in life is change. Change is inevitable. When I started GoLeanSixSigma.com 10 years ago, I had mentioned that my purpose was empowering people to improve and become more productive. And the way that I was doing that was with online Lean Six Sigma training and certification. So we were teaching people how to do something, and then kind of leaving them to their own will to kind of make that happen. As I think about my purpose and what I want to be able to accomplish in this world, it is still in line with helping people be more productive and efficient. But then I asked myself, how can I make that more scalable? How can I drive that bigger impact and not limit myself by Lean Six Sigma training and certification? I was listening to one of your recent podcasts, or your top podcasts, about some of your leaders' biggest mistakes were, and or lessons or tips were, and one of the interviews had mentioned trying to outdo or compete with the old version of yourself. So I always think about, what can I do to put myself ahead of my self, or compete with myself, because other competitors are doing it, but why not try to innovate against myself? Or another way to look at that is, don't look at your competitors, look at yourself and figure out how you can improve the way that you're doing things. And so that was kind of one of Steve Jobs and Apple's approaches to things. They weren't looking at Microsoft or any other competitors. They were looking at, how can they compete against themselves? How can I improve myself? And so with Kure, the approach that I'm taking now is that if I really want to help create the biggest impact on the world and improving people's productivity and efficiency, is instead of not necessarily wasting time with training, but walk them through it. I like to use this example. It's kind of like learn by doing. So nowadays, most people don't do manual math anymore. They don't drop the 5, carry the 1, do those sorts of things. They just whip out their calculator and then they run, and then they do the math that way. Another analogy is, people love Waze. There's ways to navigate around traffic, police traps, construction, all those sorts of things. And so this app with this artificial intelligence walks people through that. Instead of teaching people all of the ins and outs of how to do it, it really puts them right into the thick of it and then they're learning while they're doing it. And so that technology is much more scalable than having a consultant or a facilitator go to your workplace of business, or you completing a 40-hour training and then trying to figure out how to do a project on your own. Instead, we're right there with you with Kure, and trying and helping you complete the project independently of anybody else.
Hold on for a second. Karlo just talked about the comparison trap. Now, I know it's very easy to look to others that are a little bit beyond you, maybe a lot beyond you, and compare yourself to where they are and where you are. Well, there's really not much advantage that comes from that. You can learn from others, you can see what their strategies are, but if you're constantly comparing and you feel like you're not measuring up, you feel like you're less than, if it's making you feel like you're not on the right path, then you want to make sure that you're not comparing yourself to others. You're comparing yourself to what you have done. Now, everyone knows this at some level, but you want to make sure you're continuing to evolve as a leader. I work with a lot of people that are very successful, and if I compared myself and my business to them, I would probably be depressed a little bit because they're doing absolutely profound things. But here's the thing. I'm comparing myself to me, and I actually love what I'm doing. I love these interviews. I love the coaching I do. I love every time my client gets a result, and I'm addicted to that. That is a better addiction than your addiction to comparing yourself to others. That comparison trap can be dangerous. Back to Karlo. One of the things that I think a lot of people are struggling with today is how do we serve our customers when everything has been in flux and the flexibility required? How have your company kind of adapted to the new world that's emerging?
That's a great question. And being born in the online space, I'm kind of on the cusp of being a millennial. So I kind of grew up with technology, but I still have a lot of connectivity with people who were prior to that. So one of the great things, and one of the reasons we've been able to adapt, is because of the diversity of thought within my company. We have people from with multi-generational, and so we have a lot of perspectives from folks who have been doing Lean Six Sigma for 30, 40 years. And then we have somebody who maybe just graduated from college, and the magic happens when we're able to bring those people together and get them to communicate. And so we've been able to adjust or flex with the technology as it's arisen, coming up or constantly learning about new technology that is being developed and that's out there has allowed us to grow and thrive in today's really technology dependent world versus previously where all of the online Lean Six Sigma was done on site. It was kind of like a 2 to 4 week boot camp. We've really we've leveraged that expertise from the experts who've been doing this kind of work for decades, paired it with the technology and the ability of the folks that we've been able to work with who are a lot more familiar with these online technologies. And that's how we've been able to flex really well.
I want to get a little personal for a second because you're a young leader. I don't know how old you are, but based on looking at you, you look a lot younger than me. But have you had to overcome some mistakes that you've made in your leadership journey?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I wish I would have done sooner is get a mentor. I've made a lot of mistakes on my own. I've been very independent and autonomous all my life. And so I always thought that I would be able to find the answer on my own. One of my biggest challenges or mistakes has been to not seek that out sooner and start to delegate work instead of trying to do it all on my own.
I totally get the mentor thing. Did you find someone in the space that you're in or someone that's just a few years ahead of you? Or what were you looking for in a mentor?
I was looking for someone with vast array of industry experience, not necessarily someone in Lean Six Sigma. I wanted to connect with somebody who had experience in retail, hospitality, healthcare, a much wider breadth than Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma is pretty niche, as you probably know. And so what I wanted to be able to do is to take Lean Six Sigma as a means to an end of helping people improve and scale that to the masses. Because I know that there's value in Lean Six Sigma, but it's really difficult to explain. So when I was looking for a mentor, I wanted somebody with much, much more experience than myself. I'm in my mid-30s, and essentially I wanted somebody who is probably double my age and had a lot of experience in not just the online space, because I know the online space it's emerging, it's emerging technology. And I know business as a whole the patterns repeat themselves. It's just the technology that changes. So I really wanted, again, to take those diverse perspectives of me in my world and someone else in theirs and try to connect the dots, because I really think that's where the magic happens when you try to, as far as innovation.
I want to start wrapping up our conversation today with the leadership and the culture that you're building there. You've got 12 employees. You want those employees to think about increasing customer value. How do you reinforce that in the conversations you have or the rituals inside your organization?
I think a key word is empathy. I took the Alt MBA with Seth Godin last year and really learned a lot from that. I think when we stop looking at each other, whether it's our employees or our clients, like they are a transaction, and really start looking at them as a person, we really start to understand and want to do what's best for that person. So a lot of the times we'll start conversations with clients or team members with, how can I help you? What is something that we can work together on to help us mutually achieve our goals? And so that really is the starting point of a very productive conversation, relationship, and really a win-win-win for us, our customers, our clients, and the world.
Now, hold on. Karlo just mentioned the importance of empathy. Now, what I want to share with you is, what does empathy really look like in situations that are necessary for you to be an extraordinary leader? Well, empathy is a very powerful tool to help you tune in to what someone else is feeling. Many times we say we're being empathetic, but we're really not. When you're really empathetic with someone, it sounds like this in a leadership situation. If someone's been late a few times, instead of saying, "Why are you late? We've talked about this before," you might want to slow it down a little bit and say, "Let me ask you a question. What's going on in life that's causing you to be late again?" And really do it from a tone of voice that is compassionate and empathetic. That tone of voice is such an important thing, because you could say the same thing and come off as a jerk. But if you say it with compassion, you have this chance to connect. And if you really understand that maybe they've got a sick parent at home, maybe they've got a sick child at home, maybe they've got some other reasons that are keeping them from being there on time, that you can actually work around. You can actually have some flexibility for it, and they'll appreciate that for you. Now, can you take empathy too far? Absolutely you can. You can buy into the story of someone over and over and over, of them not having the time or space to get their work done. Now, then you have to have more direct conversations, and sometimes being empathetic can be too much if you keep doing it, buying their stories. All my 2 cents here to be an extraordinary leader. Make sure you keep tuning in to Grow Think Tank. Back to Karlo. Love that. A lot of people don't understand how empathy plays a role inside of great leadership. So, Karlo, I want to wrap this up with, what are you focused on next as a leader as you continue to evolve and build out your team?
I'm focusing on courage. I think there's a lot of turmoil in the world today, a lot of change happening. People are wondering what's next. They are not sure what's going to become of maybe their workplace, their community, and the world. And I think it's really important for everybody to want to participate in contributing to the greater good. And the reason why I founded Kure was to help empower people to do that, be the positive change that they want to be, and give them the tools to do that, and encourage and inspire each other. I think there's not enough of that in this world, unfortunately, and I want to be that sort of lighthouse for people where they can come and be a part of a community that does have that mindset of contributing to the greater good.
Fantastic to have you here on the show. I really appreciate, Karlo, you sharing your perspectives of leadership and growing a fast growth company.
Thanks for having me, Gene. I really appreciate it.
I want to wrap up. Karlo's kind of listening into us here, but what my intuition tells me about this interview is really you want to make sure that you're understanding the customer so that you can create solutions that match that. I know that sounds logical, but most people just aren't listening. They don't have the feedback loops inside their systems that allow them to do this on a consistent basis. They may do it every once in a while, but when you really create that as a system inside your business, you have a chance to truly learn from your customers and create the innovations and the solutions they need. But as far as leadership, you want to make sure you're empathetic to a fault. You want to make sure you're truly tuning in to the person, not just managing the work. And that really does take you being an evolved leader. If you want to be an extraordinary leader and you want to really take your skills to the next level, you might want to check out the Fast Growth Boardroom. We have a community of fast growth leaders, founders, CEOs that come together to talk about what's really going on in their business, what they really need to get clear about, having more courage, having more of ability to delegate better. All of these things happen inside Fast Growth Boardroom. If you think you're a fit, make sure you apply. We'll have a chat. And I would love to invite you in if you have what it takes to be a part of the Fast Growth Boardroom. When you think of leadership and you think of growth think Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.